Welcome back to Bargirl Baddies. Today's story comes from a 28-year-old lad from Manchester named Tom, and it's one that'll hit close to home for a lot of you watching. It's about trust, about love, about the lies we tell ourselves when we're desperate to believe in something beautiful. Tom thought he'd found the real thing in Bangkok, a proper connection, a woman who saw him for who he was, not what he could give her. She promised him she'd left the bar scene behind. She swore it was in her past. And for months he believed her, until one random Tuesday night when he walked into the wrong place at exactly the wrong time and saw her on stage under the neon lights, dancing like she'd never stopped. This is a story about what happens when the fantasy you've been living cracks wide open and you're forced to see the truth you've been avoiding all along. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. And if you've ever been in a situation where someone you loved wasn't who they said they were, hit that like button and subscribe. You're not alone in this. Trust me. Alright, here's Tom's story in his own words. I'll be honest with you, I never thought I'd be that guy. You know the type. The bloke who falls for a bar girl, sends money every month, convinces himself it's different this time. I'd seen the YouTube videos, read the horror stories on the forums, laughed at the sad bastards who thought a 23-year-old stunner from Isan actually loved them. I was smarter than that. Or so I thought. My life back in Manchester was fine. Not great, just fine. I worked in IT support, spent my days resetting passwords and explaining to middle-aged accountants why they couldn't use their dog's name as their login. I had a flat in Salford, a small circle of mates who I'd see down the pub every Friday, and absolutely nothing that made me excited to wake up in the morning. I'd been single for about 2 years after a 5-year relationship ended badly. She left me for someone she met at her gym, a personal trainer with abs and motivational quotes tattooed on his ribs. Good for her, I suppose. But it hollowed me out a bit, if I'm being real about it. I started watching videos about Thailand late at night when I couldn't sleep. Not the dodgy stuff, just travel vlogs, expat life channels, lads talking about how cheap it was to live out there, how warm the people were, how you could stretch your pension or remote work salary and actually have a life. The more I watched, the more Manchester felt grey and small and suffocating. So when my company announced we could work remotely indefinitely, I didn't even think twice. I booked a one-way ticket to Bangkok, found a little studio in On Nut for 12,000 baht a month, and convinced myself I was having an adventure. The first month was brilliant. Properly brilliant. I'd wake up to sunshine instead of rain, eat street food that cost less than a meal deal back home, take the BTS wherever I fancied. I felt lighter, younger, like I'd been holding my breath for years and finally remembered how to exhale. I wasn't looking for a girlfriend. I really wasn't. But Thailand has a way of making you feel like, maybe, just maybe, you deserve something good. I met Nin at a coffee shop near Isok, not a bar. That detail mattered to me then, and I clung to it later like it proved something. She was sitting alone with a laptop, typing away, wearing glasses and a university hoodie. She looked nothing like the women I'd seen on Soy Cowboy during a curious walk through my second week in the city. She looked normal, sweet, real. I spilled my iced latte reaching for a napkin, and it dribbled right onto the edge of her table. She laughed, not a fake performative laugh, but a genuine one that crinkled her eyes. She helped me mop it up with about 15 napkins, and we started chatting. Her English was good, not perfect, but good enough that we could have an actual conversation. She told me she was studying marketing at Ramkhamhaeng University, that she lived with her mum and younger brother in a small place out in Minbury, that she loved cooking and true crime documentaries. She asked me what I did, where I was from, why I'd come to Thailand, and she listened. Properly listened, not just waiting for her turn to talk, but actually engaged. We exchanged line IDs. She messaged me that night with a little gif of a cat waving. It felt innocent, easy, like the start of something that could be simple and uncomplicated. We met up a few days later for dinner at a little Isan restaurant she recommended in Ari. The somtam was so spicy, I thought my tongue would melt, and she laughed at me the whole time, ordering me extra sticky rice to cool it down. I paid for dinner without thinking about it, and she thanked me, but didn't make a big deal of it. It felt equal, mutual, like two people just enjoying each other's company. Over the next few weeks, we saw each other 3, maybe 4 times a week. We'd meet after she finished classes, sometimes just for a walk around Lumpini Park, sometimes for street food in Chinatown. once for a terrible horror movie at a cinema in Siam Paragon, where we both fell asleep halfway through. She never asked me for money, never hinted at needing help with rent or school fees. She seemed independent, sorted, like she had her own life, and I was just a nice addition to it. I started to fall for her. Properly fall. The kind where you check your phone every 10 minutes hoping for a message. Where you plan your day around when you might see her next. About 6 weeks in, we were lying on my bed one evening after ordering in some pizza, and I asked her about past relationships. She got quiet for a moment, and I could see her deciding how much to tell me. Then she said, I used to work in a bar, in Nana, a go-go bar, for about a year and a half. But I stopped 4 months ago. I wanted a different life. I'm trying to finish university now and do something real. I won't lie, it hit me like a bucket of cold water. My stomach dropped. All those warnings I'd read, all those cautionary tales came flooding back. But then I looked at her, really looked at her, and she wasn't some character in a forum post or a villain in someone's bitter blog. She was Nin, the girl who laughed at my terrible Thai pronunciation, who brought me throat lozenges when I had a cold, who texted me good morning every single day without fail. She was real, and she'd been honest with me. She didn't have to tell me. She could have lied, kept it buried, but she didn't. I asked her why she did it. She said the same reason most girls do. Her family needed money. Her dad died when she was 17, and her mum couldn't work full-time because of her health. Her little brother was still in school. She tried working at a 7-Eleven and a phone shop, but the money wasn't enough. The bar paid more in one night than she'd make in a week anywhere else. She said she hated it, every single second of it, but it was the only way she could keep her family afloat and pay for her classes. And then she met someone, a regular customer, who helped her out for a while. But when that ended, she realised she didn't want to keep living that way. So she quit. Got a small part-time job doing admin work for a friend's company, stretched every baht, and focused on finishing her degree. I believed her. Maybe because I wanted to. Maybe because the alternative was too depressing to accept. I told her it didn't matter to me, that everyone has a past, that I cared about who she was now, not who she had to be back then. She cried a little, and I held her, and in that moment I felt like a good person. Like I was different from all those judgmental expats who wrote off every Thai woman they met as a scammer or a liar. I was enlightened. I was compassionate. I was in love. Things got more serious after that conversation. She started staying over more often, keeping a toothbrush at my place, leaving a change of clothes in my cupboard. We'd cook dinner together, watch Netflix, talk about the future in vague, hopeful terms. She introduced me to her mum and brother over video call. Her mum spoke almost no English, but she smiled warmly and Nin translated, telling me her mum said I seemed like a good man. Her brother, a cheeky 14-year-old kid, asked me if I played FIFA and challenged me to an online match. It felt domestic. It felt real. It felt like I'd actually found something worth keeping. I started sending her a bit of money each month. Not a lot, maybe 10 or 15,000 baht, just to help out with her school fees and family expenses. She never asked for it directly, but I could see this strain on her face when she checked her bank balance or when her mum needed medicine. I had the money. I was earning in pounds and living on a fraction of it. It felt good to help. It felt like being a partner, not a punter. She'd always thank me with this mix of gratitude and guilt, like she didn't want to need it but couldn't afford to refuse. That should have been a warning sign. But I didn't see it. I didn't want to. For about 4 months, everything was perfect. We fell into a rhythm. She'd come over most evenings after class or work, and we'd just exist together. I stopped checking the expat forums, stopped watching those cynical YouTube videos. I had proof, walking proof, that not every story in Thailand ended in disaster. I was writing my own story, and it was a good one. Then came that Tuesday in November. I'll never forget it. It was one of those nights where I had no plans and felt restless. I'd finished work early, done a bit of a workout, showered, and still had the whole evening stretching out ahead of me. Nin had told me that morning she had a late class and wouldn't be able to come over. She'd said she'd message me when she got home, probably around 10 or 11. No worries, I thought. I'd grab some dinner, maybe watch a film, chill out. But by 8 o'clock, I was bored out of my skull. I thought about messaging one of the lads I'd met at a co-working space, seeing if anyone fancied a beer. Then I remembered a guy named Steve, an older British bloke I'd met at a pub quiz a few weeks back. He'd mentioned he knew a good spot in Nana for a quiet drink, nothing too mad, Just a laid-back bar with cheap changs and decent music. I shot him a message. He said he was actually heading out that way in an hour if I wanted to tag along. Sure, I said. Why not? We met up at Nana BTS around 9:30, and he led me down a sidesway I'd never been down before. The street was buzzing, neon signs flickering, bass thumping from open doorways, girls in heels and tight dresses calling out to passing tourists. It wasn't my scene, but Steve seemed comfortable, unbothered. He ducked into a place called Cherry Bar, a narrow spot with red lighting and a small stage at the back. It was busy, but not packed. We grabbed a table near the side, ordered a couple of beers, and settled in. I wasn't really paying attention to the stage. I was chatting with Steve about football, about his visa situation, about how long he'd been in Thailand. The music was loud, some generic EDM remix, and girls were rotating on and off the stage in that mechanical, rehearsed way they do. I glanced up once or twice, more out of boredom than interest, and then I saw her, my Nin, on stage, under the lights. Wearing a silver bikini and heels, moving in sync with two other girls, her face blank and professional in that way performers have when they're not really present. My brain couldn't process it. I thought I was seeing things. I blinked, looked again. It was her. Same face. Same hair, though styled differently, slicked back and drossy. Same small tattoo on her ribcage that I'd traced with my finger 100 times. It was definitely her. My stomach turned to ice. I felt like I'd been punched. Steve was still talking, something about a visa run to Laos, but I couldn't hear him anymore. The music, the voices, the laughter, all of it faded into a dull roar. I just stared. She hadn't seen me yet. She was looking past the crowd, through the crowd, her eyes glazed and distant. She spun, dipped, ran her hand through her hair. She smiled at no one. It was a smile I'd never seen on her face before, empty and automatic. I stood up so fast, I knocked my beer over. Steve looked at me, startled, asking if I was all right. I mumbled something, I don't even know what, and pushed my way toward the front of the stage. My heart was hammering. My hands were shaking. I wanted her to see me. I wanted her to explain. I wanted her to tell me it wasn't what it looked like, even though I knew exactly what it looked like. She saw me. Our eyes met. And for just a split second, her face changed. The mask cracked. I saw fear, then shame, then something like resignation. She stopped moving. The other girls kept dancing, but she just stood there, frozen, staring at me. Then she turned and walked off the stage, disappearing behind a beaded curtain at the back. I didn't think. I just followed. I pushed past a bouncer who tried to stop me, past a mamasan who shouted something in Thai. I found a narrow hallway with a door at the end, and I shoved it open. She was there, sitting on a plastic chair in what looked like a dressing room, head in her hands. She looked up when I came in, and her eyes were red. Why? I said. That's all I can manage. Just, why? She didn't answer right away. She just sat there, crying silently, mascara streaking down her face. Then she said, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Tom. You told me you quit, I said. You said you stopped months ago. You said you wanted a different life. She nodded, still crying. I did stop. For a little while. But I couldn't make it work. The money from the admin job wasn't enough. My mum needed surgery. My brother needed school supplies. The rent went up. I tried, Tom, I really tried. But I had to come back. Just for a little while. Just until I could get back on my feet. I felt like the floor was tilting. So what? You've been lying to me this whole time. All those late classes, all those nights you couldn't see me, you were here. Not every night, she said quietly. Only a few nights a week. I still go to class. I still do the admin work. But it's not enough. I needed this too. What about the money I've been sending you? I asked, and I could hear the bitterness in my voice. What was that for? She looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something hard in her expression. That helped, she said. Of course it helped. But it wasn't enough, Tom. Do you know how expensive life is here? Do you know how much my mum's medicine costs? How much my brother's school fees are? How much we need just to survive? 10,000 baht doesn't go as far as you think. I felt sick. I felt like an idiot. I felt like every warning I'd ever ignored was screaming in my ears. So what am I to you? I asked. Just another customer? Just another wallet? She shook her head, fresh tears spilling over. No, you're not. I care about you, Tom, I really do. But I can't survive on love. I need money. My family needs money. I'm doing what I have to do. I didn't know what to say. I stood there, numb, staring at this woman I thought I knew, realizing I didn't know her at all. Or maybe I did know her, but I'd chosen to see only the version of her that fit the story I wanted to believe. I left without another word. Walked out of that bar, out of that soy, all the way back to the BTS station in a daze. Steve texted me asking where I'd gone, if I was okay. I didn't reply. I went home, sat on my bed in the dark, and just stared at the wall. She messaged me later that night. A long, rambling apology. She said she never meant to hurt me, that she was ashamed, that she understood if I never wanted to see her again. She said she loved me, but she loved her family more, and she had to take care of them no matter what it cost her. She said she hoped I could forgive her one day. I didn't respond. Not that night, not the next day, not the day after that. I deleted her messages without reading them. I blocked her number. I couldn't look at her name without feeling that twist in my gut, that mix of anger and sadness and humiliation. For about a week, I barely left my flat. I called in sick to work, ordered food in, spent hours reading those same forums I'd avoided for months. And you know what? All those bitter, cynical expats I'd looked down on, they were right. Not about every Thai woman, not about every relationship, but about the reality of this place. About the fact that desperation makes people do things you can't judge from the comfort of a Western salary. About the fact that love and money are hopelessly tangled here in ways they aren't back home. I wanted to hate her. I really did. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't. Because she wasn't some evil manipulator. She was just a woman trapped between impossible choices, trying to survive in a system that doesn't give a damn about people like her. And I was just a lonely bloke who wanted to believe he'd found something real, something uncomplicated, something that proved he was special. The truth is, we were both using each other. She needed money, and I needed to feel needed. She was selling a fantasy, and I was buying it because it felt better than the alternative. And when the fantasy shattered, I had the luxury of walking away, of going back to my comfortable life, of nursing my wounded pride in private. She didn't have that luxury. She had to go back on that stage the next night, and the night after that, because she didn't have a choice. I left Thailand about a month later, packed up my things, ended my lease, flew back to Manchester. I told myself I needed a fresh start, that I'd had my adventure and it was time to grow up. But really, I just couldn't stay. Every street corner, every BTS station, every bowl of somtam reminded me of her. Reminded me of how badly I'd wanted to believe in something that was never really there. I don't talk to her anymore. I don't know if she's still working at that bar, or if she finished her degree, or if her mum got the surgery she needed. Part of me hopes she's okay. Part of me doesn't want to know. Because knowing would mean confronting the fact that my heartbreak was a footnote in her life, a brief chapter in a much longer, much harder story. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I learned some grand lesson, or that I'm a better person now, or that everything happens for a reason. I don't believe that. What I learned is that love in Thailand, real love, is nearly impossible when there's such a massive gap in power and wealth. You can care about someone deeply, genuinely, and still be fundamentally unequal. And that inequality poisons everything, no matter how much you pretend it doesn't. If you're reading this, if you're in a similar situation, if you're convincing yourself that your girl is different, that she really did quit, that you're the exception to the rule, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. Maybe you are the exception. Maybe she really does love you for you. But ask yourself this. If the money stopped tomorrow, if you lost your job or your savings or your ability to help, would she still be there? And if the answer is no, or even if the answer is I don't know, then you need to accept what this relationship really is. Not with bitterness, not with judgment, but with honesty. Because the lies we tell ourselves are the ones that hurt the most. I don't regret meeting Nin. I don't even regret falling for her. She made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. But I do regret not being honest with myself sooner. I regret clinging to a fantasy when the truth was right in front of me the whole time. And I regret that I didn't have the courage to ask the hard questions until it was too late. These days, I'm back in Manchester, back at my desk, back in the rain. I'm single again, older, maybe a bit wiser, definitely more cautious. I don't watch those Thailand videos anymore. I don't dream about going back. I've deleted all the photos, all the messages, all the evidence that any of it ever happened. But sometimes, late at night, I still think about her, about that first day in the coffee shop, when she laughed at my spilled latte and everything felt simple and possible. About the moment on stage when our eyes met and I saw the real her for the first time. About the fact that I loved her, and she probably loved me too, in whatever way she was capable of, and that somehow it still wasn't enough. So there you have it, my cautionary tale, my Thailand love story, my reminder that no matter how special you think you are, the rules still apply. Take it for what it's worth. Learn from my mistakes. And if you can't learn from them, at least know you're not alone. There are thousands of us out here nursing the same wounds, asking the same questions, wondering where it all went wrong. And the answer, if there even is one, is probably simpler than we want to admit. It went wrong the moment we convinced ourselves it was right. That's Tom's story. Raw, painful, and brutally honest. And before you leave a comment saying he should have known better, or that he was naive, or that he got what he deserved, I want you to sit with this for a moment. Tom isn't a villain. Nin isn't a villain. They're just two people caught in a system that chews people up and spits them out. A system where survival often means compromise, and compromise often looks like betrayal. Thailand is a beautiful country. The people are warm, the culture is rich, the food is incredible. But it's also a place where poverty is real, where families are desperate, where young women make impossible choices because the alternative is watching their loved ones suffer. And when Western men show up with money and loneliness and a hunger for connection, those choices become even more complicated. It's easy to judge from the outside. It's easy to say she should have been honest, or he should have seen the signs. But life isn't that clean. Love isn't that simple. And the truth is usually somewhere in the grey, where both people are doing their best and still hurting each other. Tom asked himself the right question in the end. If the money stopped, would she still be there? And that's the question every single one of you in a similar situation needs to ask. Not because the answer makes you a fool if it's no, but because the answer gives you clarity. It gives you a choice. You can accept the relationship for what it is, transactional and conditional, and decide if that's enough for you. Or you can walk away and find something built on more equal ground. There's no shame in either choice. But there is shame in lying to yourself, in pretending the power dynamic doesn't exist, in convincing yourself that love conquers all when hunger and debt and family obligation are sitting right there at the table with you. If you've been in Tom's position, if you felt that sickening drop in your stomach when reality crashes into fantasy, drop a comment. Share your story. You'd be surprised how many people have lived some version of this, how many people understand exactly what he went through. And if you're currently in a relationship where you're asking yourself these hard questions, don't ignore the voice in your head. Don't wait for the moment when you walk into the wrong bar at the wrong time. Have the conversation now. Be honest with yourself now, because the longer you wait, the harder the fall. This channel isn't about bashing Thailand or Thai women or the men who fall in love with them. It's about telling the truth. The complicated, messy, uncomfortable truth that lived in the space between paradise and nightmare. It's about recognizing that people are complicated, that survival makes us all do things we're not proud of, and that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is see someone clearly, without judgment, and decide whether you can live with what you see. Tom can't go back. Nin can't undo her choices. But you, whoever you are, wherever you are, you still have time. Time to ask the hard questions. Time to face the truth. Time to decide what you're willing to accept and what you're not. Don't waste it. Thanks for watching, Bargirl Baddies. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, every story we tell here is a reminder that you're not alone, that others have walked this path before you, and that there's no shame in admitting when something isn't what you thought it was. We'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves.